So just a few things off the bat. I'm targeting 10 a.m. to go live and then just chat with y'all before lecture starts, and then start lecture officially at 11:20, the official start time. And I already forgot what else I was gonna say. Oh yeah, and last spring was the first big offering. I taught it once as a summer course, but the first big offering of this course. So some of the material maybe a little choppy. It's whatever I could produce, generating an entire course in a short period of time. But this semester, Apple Atom, what I'm saying is I think I take some responsibility for you not fully understanding Docker. This time around, I'm hoping to cover it a lot better and get the class to understand it. So yeah, absolutely stick around for that. And I'm going to give it more time. I've kind of expanded, decompressed, whatever the proper word is, the schedule. So the topics that were really tough last time, I gave them a lot more time to breathe so we can go over them in more depth. And then cut a few topics like streaming. I don't think anybody got anything out of that. Maybe a few students, but kind of. Oh, you're looking at the grading structure. So I use that so your project video is technically, the way I look at it, is going to be your final exam. So I made that due at the end of the final exam time. So that's the only thing I use that date for. Otherwise, it's useless, yeah. Will groups be randomized? You'll get to choose your own groups, but if you want them to be randomized, you're able to do that. Hexen driven skins? Hex, I'll probably call you. If that's all right. Yeah, the old website, the old style of the website was revolved. It was all pushed over to the. Is my mouse on screen? Yeah, it was all pushed over to the right, and it was designed around there being a big hidden chat feature over on or pushed to the left, with a big hidden chat feature over on the right, and nobody found that feature all semester. So my whole layout of my website was revolving around something nobody even used. Until the end of the semester, where I'm like, hey, no one found it, and talked about it during lecture. And then like a few people used it. It just wasn't worth it. So I redesigned it to not revolve around that. Homework's easier to see. Good. Yeah, and I'll talk about that in lecture proper. But the homework, the whole course revolves around these 5 homework assignments. And like homework 4 is about WebSockets, and I'm going to teach you WebSockets for 2 weeks. Homework 3 is about building a dynamic site, and I teach you building a dynamic site. Did I say 3 weeks? For 2 weeks, I teach you about that. So each homework has a 2-week interval where I teach you explicitly that homework's content, as opposed to last year. It was a homework every week. There were either homework or a project submission every week. 13 total submissions. It didn't work. It was too fast. You're constantly working on something. The course never let up. So now bigger homeworks, but you get 2 weeks for them. So you can manage your time a bit better. Definitely not spring break. If anybody asks, especially somebody from a higher pay grade than me, this is not spring break. Just to make that clear, it is not spring break. It's definitely not spring break. But if I don't see you or hear from you for a week, it's okay. It's okay. Do we have lecture activity today, Lana? No lecture activity today. 4:42. Oh, that was every day. Is there an activity, or can I just leave? Yeah, lecture slides are already posted. I'll be revising them. So these are last semester slides. You just click on the thing to pull up the slides. And I'll be revising them, so these aren't the final versions. But you can get an idea of the content that's going to be covered. But as time permitting, I'll be updating the slides and making them cleaner, better, more clear, adding more explanation in places. But I'll start with these as the base and then improve them as we get closer to the lecture. So improved slides might not show up until like a minute before I go live, is the way I tend to work. But the slides are there. You can always click on that. I thought I added an annotation here because it wasn't clear. It's not clear that you can click on that to get the slides. I'll add that to the first day. I thought I did, but Right? I just loaded this, right? Yeah. Yeah, last year there were issues, but that's, I mean, to be expected the first time a course is offered. Which to compensate that's why I dropped 3 homeworks. There's no drop homeworks this semester because I'm more confident in the course design. Last year I knew the course design was going to need some work, so I gave you a bunch of drops. So my lack of organization in the course and generating course doesn't affect your grade. Now everybody has to learn all this stuff, so it's give and take. Definitely not. It's up pockets. HTML and CSS. These will be the 2 easiest lectures of the semester, like, probably by a long shot. That's kind of a break. We'll cover HTTP intro and Docker real quick, and then this should act like a pretty good break from that technical content. You'll be graded on how you maintain your mental health. I mean, Dragonite Spam, technically that's always true. You're always graded on how well you maintain your mental health. Maintain your mental health, you'll be able to perform a lot better. Google how to. I'd get an F-. Well, for those of you, then maybe this will be the hardest week of the semester, maintaining your mental health. I hope not. I hope some of that's in jest, but it's important. Take care of yourselves. If you have to miss an assignment, I know this is kind of counterproductive coming from me, but I mean, if you have to skip an assignment to focus on your mental health, if you're getting to that point, just skip the assignment. Take the L. Maybe get a worse grade in one course, but in the long term, it's not that big of a deal. Like, just take care of yourselves. Charlie Brown, what's up? My home lab would benefit from learning Docker. Oh, yeah. Yeah, with that, well, not to get sidetracked already, Lana, but yeah, well, we didn't even talk about that, but that app that was built around Docker, deploying that should be a piece of cake after this lecture, and this one, if needed. Vitamin D, season depression. What's up, John Sum? Take the L, Jesse. What's up, Danaski? It'd be like that sometimes. That was you who referenced it earlier too. I was gonna say that was referenced twice already, but yeah, that was you last time too. It'd be like that. I stand by that. It'd be like that sometimes. I'll tell the story if we have time, but it's 10:20, so let's do this. All right, official start of lecture. I don't know. I need some signal for Mike to edit the videos of when lecture actually starts. So, very first thing, the thing that, we'll start after this comment because I like this one. Right, LOL. I feel like we can't really do it, but if 312 was a prereq for 442, it wouldn't make sense for the groups that don't do web apps, but I can strongly encourage students to take 312 before 442. Take in the knowledge from this course and going into 442, there's so much more that you can build. What's up, Synchorous? All right, official start of lecture. So very first thing, this is the course website, CSE312.com. I always put it in the title of the Twitch videos. It's easy to remember. It was in the email that I sent out. It's literally as easy as I can possibly make it for you to be able to find the course website. So if you ever ask me what the course website is, aside from students who, add the course after today or something like that, if you ever ask me, I'm probably not going to give you an answer. I'm not going to tell you what the course website is. It's CSE312.com, the easiest possible thing to remember. So CSE312. I've thought about it for a while, actually. I literally cannot make it simpler than that. I don't know if there's ever like a .csc at some point. I could do maybe 312.csc. I don't know. CSE312.com. So this is the course website, and this has every piece of information that you'll need for the course to be able to succeed in this course. I won't be using UB Learns. I did create the UB Learns course just so it's active on there because people keep asking me, I can't see the course in UB Learns, so whatever. You can see the course there. Zero content there. So this is the course website, which will be our central hub for the course. You all found this link already if you're hearing me. For the Twitch stream. I'll stream live at lecture time. My target for starting the stream is always going to be 10 o'clock. I won't always hit that mark. Hell, I didn't even hit it today. I went live at like 10:05, I think. But my target is always to go live at 10 o'clock, then just hang out, answer questions, interact with chat, and just ease into the morning a little more. So I'll always try to go live earlier. So if you want to come early, hang out, eat your breakfast with me or whatever. I'll also always stay late. After lecture at 11:10, I'll shut down the lecture. That's the official end of lecture. No new content is going to be presented after that you're required to have. But I'll always stay on for a while after 11:10. I'll probably go at least like 20 minutes till 11:30. If there's a lot of interaction with chat, you're active, you're asking a lot of questions, I'll stay longer than that. If it's really dead, I'll probably just sign off right at 11:30. But I will start early and I will end late. So you can have some interaction. You can, we can chat and you can get your questions asked. Anything that you need to be asking. You know how it goes. I'll just interact with chat before and after. The lectures are posted on YouTube. So also, for those of you new to Twitch, the VODs of the lectures are live on Twitch as well. It's a little awkward to find, but if you click on the channel name below the video that you're watching right now, click on Hartloff, it'll give you more options. One of those options is a video tab, a videos tab. Click that and it'll show all my past broadcasts. They're live there for, I want to say 60 days before they're automatically deleted. So before 60 days, usually day of, my wonderful TA Mike will upload those videos, the past broadcasts, to YouTube, so they're more permanently on the internet. But you can watch those VODs on Twitch as soon as the broadcast starts. So, for example, if you sleep in, 10:20 a.m., it might happen. If you sleep in and you show up to lecture a little late, even while I'm recording, you can click the videos tab, go to the video that's currently being broadcasted, and replay it from the beginning. So if that's what... Danaski, you weren't following me? The hell? Like and subscribe. So if you're a little late to lecture, you can still watch it from the beginning. It's a nice feature that we have with Twitch, with these streaming tools that we're using here. And then watching all previous ones. All of last year's 312 lectures are live on YouTube right now. If you want to go watch the old lectures, you want to get ahead, kind of see what you're getting yourself into, go for it. All those videos are there. Go watch the previous lectures, and obviously the ones from this semester, they'll be posted. The YouTube channel is shared with 116 and 442 last semester. It's just where Mike puts where I have Mike put all my lectures for all my classes. So you have to sift through, search for CC 116 if you don't want all the clutter there or whatever. You'll figure it out. You'll find them. Autolab for submissions. I assume you're all familiar with Autolab, Piazza, and we also have a Discord. Go there if you want to chat with people, especially online only. I've had the Discord before we went online, but if you just want to chat with other students in the class, have a gathering place, complain about the assignments, complain about me, whatever you want to do, head over to Discord. If you're new to Discord, things sometimes get a little wild there, so keep that in mind. It's going to be less formal than Piazza is. Piazza is if you have a formal question for the course staff. Discord is if you just want to chat with students, kind of like you would just walking around Davis Hall back in the day. Head over there. There is again, it's shared with 116. There is a CC 312 channel for all your 312 concerns. Where should you post photos of your cat? The Discord has a wholesome memes. Actually, I forget what it's called. Yeah, wholesome images channel. So yes, I have an answer for you, John Sum. You should post it in the wholesome images channel. We would actually all love to see your cat. That's why that channel exists. Can I chat with you though? I'm not too active on Discord, but you can try. If you at me, I'll usually say something. If you at me with something dumb, I'll give you some smarky answer. Sometimes. May I have an invite? This is the invite link. You just click this. And it'll take you there. Posting cats now. Nice. Ah, cat. I can see it. Nice. Okay. So that's the I guess the socials, the social links. Let's get into the course proper. What the course is, I won't read this description to you, but I want to focus on what the course is not. So I should post a picture of my dog on there. So I want to cover what the course is not. This is not a front-end development course. I have those 2 lectures on HTML, CSS, JavaScript. That's all covered in 2 lectures, and I'm just going to show you the basics of those. By the time you make it into this class, you probably already know most of what I'm going to talk about, if not all of what I'm going to talk about. The fact that HTML is designed around elements and opening and closing tags. CSS can modify the style of those tags. JavaScript is to give us a full programming language in the browser. I'm not really going to talk much about those. This is not a front-end development course. I will not talk about any front-end development frameworks at all. So that's just not this course. If that's what you wanted, if you just want to very quickly build a web app that does something, this is the wrong course. There are other courses for that. You can actually, are there other courses? I don't think within CSE, but there are other places you can go for just spinning up a website real quick. Honestly, you can just go to a tutorial online and figure out how to do it on your own. It's really not that hard these days. There's so many good tools to be able to do that. This course is going to focus on the back end, the server side. What does the server have to do to make an app work? And we're going to have a strong focus on protocols. So if you don't like getting into the low-level details of how the internet works, then again, this isn't the course for you. But you're here. I assume you already read this description, that you know that this is where you want to be. We're going to focus on exactly how the internet works, and you're going to be building the cornerstone of this course. What it revolves around is you're going to be building a web server from starting with, I want to say from scratch, but starting with a TCP socket. We don't want to handle the electrical engineer side of things or the networking side of things of how to transmit packets over the internet. We're not going to focus on that part, but everything on top of that, we're going to build from scratch, or you're going to build from scratch, rather. Dealing with bits and bytes and building an entire web server based on that, which speaks HTTP and different protocols. So that's what this course is going to be. The kind of other side of this course is HCI, Human-Computer Interactions. I shouldn't even say the numbers, but somebody in chat can correct me. CSE 311, I want to say. Alan Hunt's course on Human-Computer Interaction, 370. CSE 370, Human-Computer Interaction by Alan Hunt. That's kind of the other side of this course. That course is going to not focus on protocols at all, and it's going to build up the front end of the site and focus on how, as the name implies, how us humans, interact with our computers and building user-friendly front-end design and worrying about user experience and things like that. If you take both of those courses, you're going to be a very strong full-stack web developer. You'll be able to understand a lot of what's going on and build some really cool stuff. I highly recommend taking both courses if you're interested in web development. I'm going to focus on the server side and the nitty-gritty details and the protocols. Alan's going to focus on the human side of things and building sites that people want to use and that are easy to use. So that's my spiel on that. The biggest thing is I don't want somebody coming into this course thinking they're going to learn a whole bunch of HTML and React and things like that, and then I'm not serving that at all. I'm serving something completely different to you. So I don't want you to be blindsided by that. I want to make sure that's out in the open. Yeah, shout out to Alan, seriously. He's amazing. So make sure you understand that if you're not going to hurt my feelings if this isn't what you wanted, it's still ad drop. You could still swap this out for another course or whatever. But if that is what you want, we're going to learn a lot of cool stuff. Expectations, I won't spend too much time on this. I know I say that a lot and then I spend forever rambling about something, but the big thing is you got to be committed to it. You got to want it. You got to put in the time. And since this is a 300 level course, you are expected to do a lot of work on your own. You should be able to if there's a framework that you want to use for your project, you should be able to go to the documentation of that framework, read the documentation, understand it, and be able to use that without guidance, maybe asking your teammates for help from time to time. But if you come to office hours and ask me how to use Django, I'm not going to help you. I'm not going to answer you. You're expected to be able to do that on your own. Anything that I cover in the course, you have questions about that, absolutely come ask me or the TAs in office hours. We'll be happy to help. The grading, there's no final exam, no quizzes will be the first thing you notice. It's just homework and team project. It's all programming. It's all programming for the grading. I guess technically the team project, there is a presentation video at the end. So not all programming, but you get the idea. Grade cutoffs. No textbook. And then the university policies, I'll let you read through that on your own. Don't cheat. By the time you made it here, you've already heard the spiel 100 times. You've probably heard it from me before. Don't cheat. Oh, I have a Unicode error there. It's not good for a web development course. Don't cheat. If you cheat, it's going to be an F. You know the drill. You can pick your own teams. If you don't want to pick your own team, it can be random. Wash to win. Okay. So let's get into the details of these things. So your grade comes from homework and projects. I got 2 sections on each. Read them both, get familiar with them. I'll go through them here and add a lot of my kind of reasoning why right now. But before I do that, I just want to show this is a feature, like the first time I use it in lecture, everybody goes nuts in chat. So I want to make sure everybody knows about this right now. You can click on this and collapse a section. You read the syllabus, you got it. Okay, that's the grading structure. You expect me to work hard and stuff. You can collapse that, and then on refreshes, that's always collapsed. So once you know what homeworks are in syllabus in the project, you can collapse these and go right to the course schedule, so to have that right at the top of the page. And then when you have questions, obviously open it up and read it again. But I'll usually have these collapsed as we go through the semester. After today, I'll probably have them collapsed. Like some websites goes, I do a little bit of front end stuff. Not too much. I don't cover front end mostly because I just don't like developing on front end. But I do a little bit when I need some nice user experience. So the homeworks are going to be combined into one big project. So over the course of the semester, you're building one large homework project. Web design is my passion. So you're building one big project, which is going to be a web server from scratch. That's divided into 5 homework assignments that we learn how to develop throughout the semester. Those 5 assignments all combine into one big project where you're going to build a nice web app, hopefully nice, by the end of the semester, starting with a TCP socket, a TCP connection. So each time we're going to add more features to that. We're going to manually grade these. So you don't have to worry about, there's sometimes issues in courses where the auto grader screws you out of points of things that you did. None of that. We're going to manually grade these. We'll explain the grading scripts that we'll go through. Scripts like manual scripts. Like we're going to click this button, you take this action, then we expect to see this on your website. But it's not going to be automated. So you're not going to get screwed out of points, well, hopefully. And if you do, you can always complain. There are no frameworks or libraries allowed. This is implicit, but I have all this text you can read through just to make sure that we're on the same page of that. You're starting with a TCP socket connection and building your framework on top of that. If you use any code that you didn't write that does the homework for you or any part of the homework for you, that's not allowed. You're going to get a 0 on the homework assignment. So, and this includes obviously any HTTP library. That might not be obvious right now, but once we get into the lecture content, that'll be obvious what I mean by that. But any HTTP library, anything that's parsing HTTP headers for you, anything that's extracting information for you from the raw HTTP request, that's all banned. You can't do that. None of that. Using those libraries, you could do all 5 homework assignments in potentially a couple of lines of code, because we're effectively building our own framework here. So I want you to build your own framework. If you use a framework, what are you doing? You're not doing any work. You're not learning anything. And the general rule of thumb here is if I explained something in detail during lecture, that means you have to write the code that handles those details. If there's something that I did not explain in detail in lecture, then you're probably not expected to handle that. So, for example, we do a lot of string parsing in this class, and I'll explain the format of the strings that you have to parse, and you'll have to do all the parsing yourself. That doesn't mean that I need you to write your own string parsers, but I do need you to recognize and write the code that recognizes the format of the strings. So, for example, you don't have to write your own string.split method. You can use your built-in string.split method. But you need to be handling what happens after that split. You can't say http.parse these headers for me, but you can use all your string methods to parse them. If you have any questions, ask before the assignments due, and I'll give you an answer. There are some judgment calls that come up from time to time, so thought this would be a tough 116 course. And for each homework assignment, submit some documentation just explaining the structure of your code, how you arrived at your solution. I created classes named XYZ, they have methods these, they do this is how they're all combined to solve the homework solution. Just a good overview of your structure. So if there is any, and the reason we use this is if there's any issue, we go through our grading script, we click button X, we expect to see behavior Y, and we don't. We're going to refer to your documentation and try to look through your code to see what you have, to see if we can give you any partial credit there. If you don't have this report.txt, any minor bug is going to be a 0, at least for that objective of the homework assignment. Explain your code, tell us where to find stuff, help us out so we can look for those partial credit points for you. So this is important, mostly for your benefit, to have more details and to add this report.txt. It is required. We'll take points off if it doesn't exist, but if it exists and it's crappy, that's only going to hurt you. And since all the homework assignments are combined, they combine for one big project, this does imply that if you don't get full credit on an assignment, you're probably still going to have to do that work on a later assignment. So we do have this thing we call cascading failure, where if you don't complete homework 1, by the time you get to homework 2, you're doing homework 1, everything that you missed, and homework 2. So this is usually a very bad feature, something I'm aware of that isn't the best thing. But in a course like this, we have this anyway, regardless. Even last year when the homeworks were disjoint, they weren't combining to one big project, they still had this feature because if you didn't write the code for the previous one, if you didn't write the code to parse HTTP headers, there's no way that you can parse cookies which use HTTP headers. We just can't do it. So to compensate for this, if you complete the objectives for homework, if you don't do it by its deadline, but you do complete them before the next homework's deadline, I will give you half your points back. So if you got, for example, a 60 on homework 2, before homework 3, you complete enough stuff to get a 90 on it, you complete 90% of the objective of the points, you're going to get a 75 overall on that homework. So maybe homework 1, you missed the deadline or whatever, and you don't submit anything or it's all wrong. You just got a really slow start to the semester. You get a 0 on that assignment. Homework 2 comes around, you get everything together, and you get 100 on homework 1 and 100 on homework 2. Your homework 1 grade is going to become a 50. So you can make up some past points. For the last homework, since there is no next homework, for the last homework, it's going to be 2 weeks after the original deadline, and all 5 homeworks are spread out in 2-week intervals. So homework 1 is due at the end of week 3, homework 2 at the end of week 5, then 8 because that spring, definitely not spring break week, doesn't count. And so every 2 weeks something's due. So 2 weeks after the last homework, which happens to be the last day of classes, it's all timed out. It's all spaced out to work out that way. That's when your makeup opportunity for homework 5 is going to be. All right, let me take a quick pause here. Are there any questions so far on the way homeworks are going to go, on anything in the syllabus? Toldfish out. Toldfish is not enrolled in this course, for those of you wondering. He can come as go as he pleases. I guess y'all can, but it's not going to affect his grade at all because he doesn't have one. Be the frame and framework. Nice. Qdocta? Is that how I say that? Yeah, taking both of the courses at the same time is excellent. In his course, he'll give you the back ends and all the server stuff, and you'll build the front end. And in this course, I'll give you the front ends. I'll give you probably pretty weak front ends. I was actually thinking about this morning. I'll give you pretty weak front end for the homeworks, just that technically uses all the features. And if somebody wants to build a better one, you are encouraged to do that and share it with the class. A prettier one, I should say. What language? Oh, I did miss that. I'm glad I took this pause. Max Kravik. What language do you use for the homeworks? Any of them. Any language. Your choice. Dealer's choice. Homeworks are completely individual, correct? So all the homeworks, this is, I'll run Moss and all that stuff and look for that. It's all individual. You can design with your friends, just like in 116. I'm not going to go through the whole AI spiel. But you can design your solutions with your friends if you want to get study groups and talk about how you're going to design the assignments and how you're going to architect them. That's fine. But when it comes to writing the code, you have to write the code individually. You have to write your own code by yourself. Bonus points for prettying things. That's part of what I was thinking about this morning. If somebody writes a nice front end, should I give bonus points for that? And my answer I came up with was maybe. I don't know. Maybe. I don't want to say yes because then I'll get like 100 really crappy front ends and 100 students asking for bonus points. But if somebody makes a really nice one, maybe. I usually don't do bonus points, but I don't know. I'm coming around these days. I'll use a lot of Scala and I believe a lot of you have taken the new 116 in Scala, and that you do have Scala experience. So I'll use a lot of Scala examples and show you how to do it in that. I also have some Python examples, and we'll see JavaScript on the front ends. Which language do I recommend? Probably, given that fact, probably Scala. Especially if you took 116 with Scala, then yeah, Scala would be my recommendation. Python's alright too. I wouldn't recommend a language like C or C++ unless you're very familiar with those languages. Java you can get away with too. Java's pretty good. C and C++, I find a lot of times students will fight, and myself, will fight against the language more than the content of the course, and I don't want it to turn into that. Scratch, if you use Scratch, yeah, speaking of bonus points, I might give you bonus points for that. Node.js is fine. With Node.js, just make sure you're not using the HTTP library. I've seen a student do that. I had to give a 0 on assignment for it. Because I don't know, they just didn't think about it, I guess. But I've taken, Danaski. Yeah, Danaski, you should do it in Scala. Danaski's should I? I don't know how much I should. You're a mod, so people can figure it out. But 116, Danaski's a 116 TA. All right, so let's keep going and talk about the project. I'm on the wrong screen. So let's talk about the project. So this is going to be a group project. You're going to build groups of 4. I'll have more details on this possibly by Wednesday. But you'll work in teams of 4. You're welcome to choose your own teams, and I'll set up a form where you can submit your teams. Tell me who your teammates are. Teams of 4, there's 120 of you, so we should end up with 30 teams. Form your own team, or if you don't want to form your own team, I'll have a method for you to contact me and say, I want to be put on a random team, or just by default, if you do nothing, I'll throw you on a random team. So I'll have a deadline for forming teams. If you don't do anything by that deadline, I'm throwing you on a random team. So you don't have to choose a team if you don't want to try to meet people in this online environment. It can be tough. It can be difficult. You can just go the default option of random team. If you do want to try to find somebody to have form a team with, the Discord's there. That's probably the best thing right now to be able to use the Discord for. Try to find classmates with similar interests and, build something cool. Whatever you build, and this is for those of you who are aware of what I did last year, this is a bit different, a bit looser than the requirements that I had last year. But your web app has to have these 5 features in there. I'll release more documentation, or I was thinking about this too. I might not even. I might just leave it at these one-liners and leave the design up to you. But I might release more information about what does and would or would not count as completing one of these objectives. But this is what your app should have, as long as it has these 5 things. User accounts with secure authentication. Users. Wow, my grammar. Users to see all users who are currently logged in. Users should be able to see all the users who are currently logged in. I'll have to fix that grammar. Users can DM each other, and somebody who receives a DM should get a notification. There should be some way for them to see that they were sent a DM, and that notification should be automatic. They shouldn't have to reload the page. They should be able to share multimedia content of some form, images, videos, whatever, some form of multimedia content, PDFs, I don't care, but some form of multimedia content, something that's working at the byte level and not at the, say, Unicode level like text. That has to be stored and hosted on your server, and users should be able to find a way to find other users' content. Like, it should be loaded somehow, some way. And they should be able to interact. Users can interact with WebSockets, and this can't be text. That probably does need more clarification, actually, now that I'm looking at it more. This can't be just straight up text. Like, you can't have just a chat app. Partly because that's what I'm going to use as my lecture example. But they should be able to interact in a way where behind the scenes it can be text, but to the users it shouldn't just be literally sharing text. So, for example, if the shared content is JSON strings representing a character's position in a game, and then that position is shared with everybody else and everyone can see each other's position. So to the user, they're all just moving around in this space, even though when it's actually being shared with the server, it's technically text. That's fine. It just can't be text from the user perspective, is what I mean by that. That does need more clarification. And you're going to make a video at the end of the semester showing off your project, explaining what it is, how it works, and everything. Emojis. Emojis count as text. It's all part of UTF-8. Yeah, you can't just use the course example, is what I mean. And that's probably going to be part of the homework project as well, is sharing text and having a chat app. So I want you to take what you've learned from the course and expand upon it, is what I'm saying. That's really what I mean by that, what I want from that. You'll have weekly meetings. These will start week 3. Team formation will be due next week, and then week 3 you'll start your team meetings. The submissions, I don't know if I'll talk about submissions before open source reports, I guess. The order's fine here. So projects due at the end of the semester. Like, last day of class is end of the semester. Midnight on that last day. So, and that's it. That's the deadline. So if I just left it at that, a lot of you will get bad project grades. I know how deadlines work. I've made the mistake before of being very loose with deadlines. So there are 2 project checkpoints throughout the semester that you as a team can cash in, not at any time, I'll get into that here, but 2 project checkpoints that you can use to effectively use as 2 submissions throughout the semester. To be honest, I didn't know where to put these deadlines, so I just left it up to you. You can use these where you want to. You can sit down with your team and generate your own schedule of this is where we want our 2 project checkpoints to be, and then use them at those times. When you use a checkpoint, the course staff and I will go into your project and look it over, and we'll give you feedback on the state of your project at that point. So we'll tell you how you're doing if you're in a good direction. If your open source reports are what we're looking for, what you need to do to improve them, and just basically where you're at, how you're doing, so you can get feedback from the course staff. If your project is looking really good at one of these checkpoints, we might even give you a grade. So if you clearly have all 5 of the features from the top of this section, all 5 of those are there, it's looking good, your documentation and reports are great, and you have a really nice app, we might just say, hey, if you stopped right now, you got a 95. And if you're happy with that grade, you can be done with the project early. So you could be done at your first checkpoint. If you want to hash out the project really early, go for it. That will be tough given the open source reports that I'll talk about next, but you can finish early if the checkpoint goes really well. So what I intend for this is that your team works on the project, tries your best to complete the entire thing, use a checkpoint, and then we'll say, hey, this is pretty close, but we need these improvements. And then use your next checkpoint and the final deadline to improve and make sure you get 100% on the project. You should be getting 100% with these checkpoints. The caveat is these checkpoints cannot be used within 3 weeks of each other or the project deadline. So there are 2 places in the course schedule, just to make sure everybody knows. 3 weeks before the deadline, that's your last chance to use a checkpoint. If by default you want to do the absolute slacker thing, this is effectively a project deadline because that's your last time to do a checkpoint. And 3 weeks before that, that's the deadline if you want to use both checkpoints. That's your last chance to use that first checkpoint if you want to use both checkpoints. So I have those marked just so you don't forget. Those are effectively your deadlines if you don't want to think about it, or you don't want to be proactive, or whatever your reason is. I don't care what your reason is, but those are your last chance deadlines. No scrum boards, peer reviews each week. No scrum boards because this isn't 442. I can't count on everybody knowing what a scrum board is or how to use it. And I don't have time in the semester to cover scrum boards. It's not really part of this class, so no scrum board requirement. You'll learn about scrum boards in 442. Yeah, the team meeting form has peer evals right in it. So every single week, you're going to do peer evals on your peers. I'll do grade adjustments based on, I forgot to mention this in the weekly meeting thing. I'll do individual grade adjustments. Those will be my decisions. At the end of the semester, I'll look through all of the meeting reports and see how, get an idea of how hard each teammate worked or didn't work. And I'll adjust grades as needed. So if you slacked all semester and your teammates are saying, that they didn't do anything at all, I'm going to lower your score and raise theirs. There's an implication in here. The average individual score is always going to be the score that the team earned, and individual grade adjustments will never result in a score of greater than 100. So the implication here is if your team scored a grade of 100, there won't be any individual grade adjustments if you combine these 2 statements. That is inferred from here. So if you got 100 on the project and your teammate didn't do anything, but you covered for them all semester, they're still going to get 100 on the project. So just be aware of that. I'm not just going to tank somebody's score even if the team got 100. If you got 100, I'm going to take that as evidence that the team did well. If you have a slacker, it's a little risky, but I wouldn't cover for them and then hope that it washes out in the individual adjustments and that you still get your 100, but your teammate doesn't. But if you get 100 on the project, there's nothing for me to do. Online open source reports. This is important. It's going to be a big part of the project. So I'm going to start with the why, actually. So building this project, let's be honest, it's not a 300 level project. Like, just to build an app that has these 5 features, that's not a 300 level project. That's easy. I've had incoming freshmen in 115, I've taught that, who could do this and who have done this, have built a site with these features. It's honestly not that hard. If you're thinking, oh my goodness, that looks crazy, honestly, going through a couple of tutorials online and at the skill level you're at for a 300 level course, being able to read that documentation, go through the tutorials. Some of the tutorials will do most of this just in the walkthrough. That's the introduction to a framework that in that documentation. So that's not really a 300 level project. So any outside code that you use. Oh, I didn't even mention that part. For the project, it doesn't have the same restriction as the homework, where the homework you start with a TCP socket, you build a web server from scratch. The project, everything's on the table. You can use any framework, any library, anything to be able to complete it. That's what makes it not a 300 level project. Building it from scratch, absolutely 300 level. Building it with frameworks and libraries, not 300 level. That's super easy. I mean, you can do that in... No, I won't harp on it. But what makes this a 300 level technical course is these open source reports, is any framework, any library, any code that you didn't write, that no one on your team wrote, that you're using for your project. You have to write a report for that framework, library, service, whatever it may be, explaining what it does, how it does it, and if it's open source, links to the code where it does what you're using it for. So like if you're using something that parses your HTTP requests for you and gives you all that information in nice, neat data structures, I want to know how it parsed that. I want you to link the code in the repo, in their repo, that does that exact thing, where it's saying, looking for ampersands and Newton line breaks, and how it's teasing that apart. Basically, where does it do the thing that you did on your homework assignment? And most times you'll be able to look through their code and see the exact thing that you did on your homework, and just see their way of doing it, that library's way of accomplishing that task. So I want you to explain how that library or framework or service, for service you can't link the code, but explain what they're doing, what has to be done by that code, and where it does it, how it does it, all the information about that code. So you can't use a technology that you don't understand. If you're just pulling in a framework and calling its methods to be able to do work for you, you can't just do that blindly. You have to explain to me how that works and what actually happened when you called that method. So you can use these frameworks, but you have to know how they work. And that's what makes it a 300 level project. Without doing this, it's surprisingly easy to get a website. There's so many nice tools, so many nice frameworks out there these days. It's surprisingly easy to just build something that does a thing. Not too hard. So tell me how it works. Actually show me that you understand what's going on. The grading, 15% for each of those 5 features at the top of this section. 15% for the project video. And just to make sure you are using those checkpoints and you're not just treating this as a single deadline project, 5% each time you use a checkpoint. So use both those checkpoints, get a free 10% in the course. You do have to have what I call a reasonable amount of progress made during that checkpoint. But I'm not going to be too strict on that. It's basically, I don't want a team waking up the morning of a last chance for the checkpoint day and going, oh crap, we got to get our free 5 points, and then just submitting nothing. That's really what I don't want to see. As long as you have anything, really, anything that really shows that you've been working on the project, and I'll have your weekly team meeting reports. As long as you've done something reasonable, I'm going to give you those 5 points. They're meant to be free points, as long as you have been working on the project at all. Oh yeah, it's the security caveat. I don't want you to get too scared by this. As long as you're paying attention to the course content and applying it, you'll be fine here. But if there is a security flaw in your group project, this will affect your grade. It might even go down. I reserve the right to go all the way to a 0 for the entire project if you have a security flaw, depending on the severity of the vulnerability, and just how obvious it is, or rather, if it was something, for example, if it's something I covered in lecture and I waved my arms a lot and said, don't do this, this is how you avoid this vulnerability, it's a very scary vulnerability, and you have that vulnerability, like if you're vulnerable to HTML injection, for example, that's an easy one that I'm just going to be like, yo, that's got to be a 0. And also, the only way you're going to get hit by this is if you didn't use a checkpoint with your completed project. So as long as you're paying attention, doing what you're supposed to do, and using at least your second checkpoint with your whole project complete, which I highly recommend, 3 weeks before that deadline at the latest, at least complete your project, and maybe you got to fine tune things after that, and submit it for a checkpoint. And if I'm like, hey, is a security vulnerability, this would be a 0, well, you know exactly what to fix. Oh, all right. And I don't remember when this class ends. I think it's 11:10. Yeah, 11:10. So 8 minutes. I'll go through the schedule. I don't have to take up the whole time, I guess. 11:30. So I'll end at 11. I'll stay at least until 11:30. But I want to make sure at the official end time that after that I'm just chatting and answering questions and stuff. I don't want to present new content after 11:10, which is why I want to know when the official end time is. So let's quickly just go through. I won't go through week by week or day by day with the schedule, but I do want to highlight each homework assignment is going to be covered. The material for a homework assignment is covered in 2-week chunks. So, for example, this first 2 weeks, except today where we're just talking about the structure of the course, these 5 lectures, this is where I'm showing you explicitly how to do homework 1, and then a week after is when homework 1 is going to be due. And that's the structure for the entire course. That's how you can plan your time around that. You can plan around that of how the homeworks are going to go. So 2 weeks, and by Wednesday's lecture, I'm going to release the homework 1. I'll finalize all the structure of homework 1 and release that, so you know what you're getting into. And I got 5 lectures to show you how to do homework 1. Homework 1 is going to be on creating a TCP socket, handling HTTP requests with that socket, and deploying that server in a Docker container. So that's what we're going to cover over 5 days. And this one does spill over a little because I lose the intro day. So this one does spill over a little just in examples. But I won't cover new content on this day. I'll just show you an example of how to get this stuff running. So I teach you how to do homework 1 for 2 weeks. Homework 1's due. I teach you how to do homework 2 for 2 weeks. Homework 2's due. I teach you how to do homework 3 for 2 weeks. We have this kind of void in the schedule, which doesn't count, so an extra week after that. Homework 3 is due. Teach you how to do homework 4. Well, you get the point. You get the idea. And we do have this week that I don't want to talk about too much so I don't get in trouble, but look, if anyone ever asks, oh my, I got a stray hair. If anybody ever asks, especially if they are in a pay grade above me, a dean, a provost, or a politician or something like that, tell them that this is not spring break. This is definitely not spring break. I just want to make that clear. This is not a spring break. But if you don't show up to the lectures that week, if I don't see you in chat, if you don't work on any 312 assignments for a week, that's up to you. You do have some homework this week, though. Maintain your mental health. Get yourself, in a functioning state. Make sure you're clearing your mind and stuff. Or if you take this time just to catch up on other work, as long as that's helping you maintain your health, you know what to do there. So we got 5 sections, and these are collapsible as well, by the way. So as we progress through the semester, you can collapse part of the schedule. And then the last 3 weeks, we have some extra time on the schedule. I'm going to cover, just random topics. I can take topics by request if there's something a lot of y'all want to see. I can add some lectures here. If you want to see my old streaming lectures that I did last year, I don't know how beneficial they were, but I can add those here. And then in review and stuff. But we can have some flexibility here because this stuff won't show up on a homework. But if there's something that you need for your project that you want to understand, just ask about it. I can cover it here. A big thing that I do want to cover regardless is encryption. I had a homework on this last year, and again, that didn't go over super well either. I just didn't like the way it came out. I have 2 choices here if I have it for a homework. Is I either have you do really low-level encryption and cryptography stuff, which can get very tedious, very difficult, which I'm not super opposed to, but I don't know. I just don't see enough benefit from it to really put you through that. Or I make it trivial like I did last year and just have you create a cert and install the cert on your server. using existing frameworks in your language of choice, which, was just worked by magic and didn't really show you how that works. So I'll still cover it, but I'm not going to put it on a homework assignment because it's very important stuff. You really need to know how this works, at least how to install a cert and obtain a cert, which I'll go through a demo of that. But it's tough to get a homework assignment for it. In this lecture. Examples of full web apps. I'll do some live coding this week or show you an existing project and just walk through how it works, how all these technologies combine to be able to build a full user experience. I'll talk about that kind of stuff and just whatever else we want. I might create some polls and get some ideas from all of you on whatever you want to see.